Well, howdy, guys. Welcome back to the RedAss podcast. This is Monday, October 2nd, and we are officially into, I guess we could call it meteorological fall because we're not quite there yet.
Well, it doesn't matter the temperature. It's spooky season, right?
It is spooky season. And fortunately for all of us, there is a big cold front coming through this week, and it's going to be absolutely phenomenal in town this weekend. But
Yeah.
my name's Rob White, class of 14.
And I am Roy May, fighting Texas Aggie, class of 15. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the weather, not to mention that it's going to be preceded by some rain, which we still need.
You're not wrong at all.
So I'm looking forward to the weather coming through and actually seeing the 60s again. So it should be beautiful for the game. This is actually the Yell Leader reunion weekend. So
exciting. Cool.
Yeah. So Friday I'm taking the day off work. I've got the golf tournament to go play in, and then we do our kind of dinner and meeting and all that good stuff Friday evening, then head on to midnight yell. So I love that weekend. I love to see all the old guys. Get to hang out with the new guys just a little bit, but they're kind of busy on Friday evenings. But I think one or two of them might be playing in the golf tournament.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking forward to the game, looking forward to the weekend, coming off a great weekend kind of thing. Obviously the Aggies go up and win by maybe less than they should have. And we can get in the Ag game here in a second. Sure. Cowboys won, and looked good doing it. And then, if you're actually watching this and not just listening, I'm paying a little homage to my good old Houston Astros. Who on the very last day managed to eke out an AL West title because the Rangers couldn't score a run on the final day of the season.
I mean, well, let's go ahead and get into that for a second. So we're both Astros fans on this podcast. So I'm sorry to any of our Rangers friends, but I mean, this was an absolute choke job. I mean, they had it in the bag for a week. I mean,
and they've got a ton of talent, and you thought on the front end that we really choked it away.
You would think
getting swept by KC, and you're like, all right, so we're gonna get swept by one of the worst teams in baseball. That's perfect since we're in the middle of a title race,
right?
But with that offense not able to score one run on the final day of the season, that is brutal, because it's not like they got beat 10-0.
No, and I understand, especially as a fan of the Astros, and it's one of those situations where, yeah, I could be sympathetic, of course, because that sucks, being that close and not quite getting over the hump.
However,
but it's just the biggest thing is it's just kind of been a long running history with the Rangers, though. If you go back over their history, even their recent history, I mean, look at what was it, 2012, when they were up how many games in the AL West that year, and going into that final week, they just lost all of it, had to play the wild card game against the Orioles at home and lost. And it was just like a whole big deal.
Speaking of that, how fun are the Orioles to watch this year?
They're a crazy baseball team, man. Honestly, between them and the Braves, they're both great.
I know, right? Yeah, I'm optimistic just because it's the Astros and there's something to be said for experience, but the Braves also have that. So
the Braves have it, and frankly, there's just no doubt in my mind that it's going to be a really tight playoff race for the MLB. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And
I was about to say, I think it should be a ton of fun to watch this year.
Yeah. And I'm fully coming into the thought process that, the Astros at this stage of the game, would you say they're the best team? No. Are they most experienced team in the playoffs? Without question. So I think that's something that'll be interesting to see how much experience speaks for.
That buys you some wins here or there, but it doesn't buy you titles generally.
No, you're right.
Just that the Orioles and Braves are so good. But hey, it could be worse for the Rangers. They could be the Mariners.
Well, true. I mean, being just barely out.
Yeah, you're still in the postseason.
Yeah.
You have a mashing lineup. I mean, I think your only concern is still the bullpen. I mean, because even though they didn't score a run on the final day of the season, I mean, it's no reason to full on of four alarm fire kind of alert. On the offense, they've got some amazing firepower over there. It'll be interesting to see how their series shakes out. But just goes to show you, I guess the silver boot really is important because we had the head-to-head tiebreaker.
Right. And the fact that it came down to that, that's kind of an important deal.
Nuts up.
You got to win it. But fact is, Astros take the division. Rangers are certainly not in a bad place. I mean, you went from not being in the playoffs to being in the playoffs. That's a good deal. That's a good positive movement.
Well, and a couple things. One, they went through the same thing the Astros went through with like multiple 190 to 100 loss seasons. Like they were down in the dumps. But I think the Rangers are ahead of schedule, kind of relative to their rebuild. So I think they're well ahead of schedule. So if you're a Rangers fan, you got to be excited. And by the way, I mean, you're in the postseason. And the old adage, that's baseball. You never know. Just because a team's really good doesn't mean they're automatically gifted a title.
Right. Exactly.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to the Major League Baseball offseason or postseason, actually. And offseason, because it is a bit of a grind.
It always is, but I'm looking forward to checking out this postseason. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. October ball's here, and I mean, let's just talk about October. This is the month. This is like one of the best months for sports. You've got football in full swing. You've got baseball wrapping up. You've got a bunch of other great things going on.
Premier League's in full swing. You have like our volleyball program is doing great. Yeah, you've got hockey starting up. This is the prime time to be a sports fan because you can enjoy all that and still go to football games and not freeze your butt off.
Very true.
Yes, very true. Despite what we may think coming off this summer, that's around the corner somewhere.
It's coming.
It's coming though. Yep. It's coming.
Farmer's Almanac seems to be of the opinion it's going to be a cool, wet winter in this part of the world. So just get ready for that.
I know it's so miserable. I just went through a hot, dry summer, which I can take. That's fine. My yard couldn't take it, but I can take it. But like cold and wet, like no, dog. I'll see y'all in like March.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do this because I can do it indoors.
And I will say I'm very much looking forward to the matchup. Obviously, coming into Kyle Field this week, it's very, very exciting with Alabama. However, we had ourselves a really interesting game this past Saturday with Arkansas. We say interesting, and yet somehow not the most crazy Southwest Classic we've ever seen in terms of how close it comes down to it.
No, honestly, it was just sloppy.
Yeah, you're right.
It was sloppy and it was one-sided with the officiating. The fact that one of the most penalized teams in the SEC comes in and doesn't get flagged once, okay.
Well, and even now, having now gone back to watch highlights because we were sound checking during the game, but went back and watched footage, watched highlights, all those fun things. Man, how on earth did that hit on Evan Stewart not at least draw a flag?
Should have at least drawn a review. And that's probably, and if you go back through it, and I think I saw one of the guys on TexAgs boards, he's an official, and so he breaks down stuff and kind of what he thinks about it. And I think he's right in the sense that it would have been hard to turn that into targeting since it was called not targeting on the field. He's like, but he was still kind of surprised it didn't at least go to review. And so it's kind of one of those, the call on because if you watch it enough times, you could see where you could justify that he really kind of hit his shoulder first, even though he's a defenseless player. Like that's almost the pure definition of a defenseless player is the position that Evan Stewart was in, high pointing the ball and getting his foot down, which by the way was unbelievable catch.
Oh, incredible catch.
But the thing is, Arkansas didn't draw any penalties, which is there's no way, right? But we also only drew 6. Sure. I mean, the refs just kind of had the flags in the pocket. Concerning out of those 6 is like 4 or 5 of them were pre-snap. So we're still having these issues. We're still having these mental breakdowns. Yeah. And again, we're nitpicking after a win. So I'd rather nitpick after a win than take the positives after a loss.
Always rather nitpick. Always.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, but we only have 40 yards in penalties. So it wasn't anything suffocating. Nia Smith, you can't say enough great things about him.
No, I mean,
just fantastic performance receiving, fantastic performance in the return game. He really is he's so fun to watch. But I mean, if you come away from that game thinking anything, you're just thinking about our defense. I mean, the defense gave up 15 points.
Well, defense gives up 15 points, less than 200 yards of offense, and got 7 sacks again.
I mean, even if you take, yeah, I mean, I wasn't betting that many sacks just because Arkansas had given up 4 each of the previous 2 games. So I was like, well, they seem to be on a roll. We'll just do 4.
Sure.
Glad to see me be low on my, on my prediction.
Yeah.
But I was reading earlier one of Owen's articles that he loves to write. The was it Loved, Learned, and Loathed or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And he was talking about like if you take away the sacks, like Arkansas still only ran for 83 yards.
Yeah, I mean, this was a very, very tight defensive performance from Texas A&M, and there was a graphic that popped up, and it was rolling around on the internet there for a minute, but it was talking about a 9-drive stretch for Arkansas during this game, where they went for on every single one of those drives, not a single one went over 4 plays. The amount of yardage didn't go over 14 yards. And each of those drives ended in a punt, turnover on downs, punt, field goal, pick 6, punt, 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 punt. That's 9 straight drives where this defense held them in check. And
that's backbreaking.
Yeah, 9 drives, 28 plays, 1 first down, 13 total yards, -4 points scored, and 0.46 yards per play.
I mean, that's absolutely backbreaking when you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, it
breaks your soul, man.
Well, you don't like to use the term wrecking crew just on nonchalant throwing it out there, but that's a wrecking crew kind of performance.
Yeah, dude, that's different, man.
It is.
That's and I think what's interesting. So the week before, we had Edge Cooper and Torian York. They both had double-digit tackles. They had sack, tackle for loss. I thought it was interesting. If you kind of look down the stat sheet, it's a little bit more balanced this week. Like you had some dudes with 6 and 5 tackles, but the amount of dudes with 4, 5, 6 tackles goes way further down the list.
Yeah.
And so I thought it's a suffocating defensive performance. It just is. And even if you add in those yards, if you take away the sack yards, taken away from the rush total, you still only gave up 215 yards of offense. Again, these are borderline, video game numbers. And I know that Arkansas obviously has some issues on the offensive line, although nothing to take away from our defensive line.
No.
But KJ Jefferson's a legitimate quarterback, and you bottled him up. Yeah. And Rocket Sanders is back, and you bottled him up. And like their biggest weapons, you were able to take away. And to me, that's a super positive heading into this weekend against Alabama, who always has playmakers.
Mm-hmm. So
but we made KJ Jefferson kind of one-dimensional.
See, you've had 2 straight weeks where a mobile quarterback has been in that backfield and was very much bottled up from the get-go. And I have to stress, I made a comment a few weeks back, and I'm here to come back and say that I'm sorry for saying my comment. DJ, I'm going to give you back your D's.
Oh, you're going to eat a little crow.
I'll eat a little crow here. Hey, DJ, Durkin, you're no longer jerking. You got your D's back.
Well, and you're no different than the overwhelming majority of the fan base coming out of that Miami game. I don't think there was a whole lot of positives to draw out of the Miami game, and not just the performance, but the scheme. But I think what we've seen now since the Miami game, not to mention Miami is criminally underrated right now.
Oh, I agree. Yeah.
But I think you're seeing maybe you get Miami super earlier in the year. You don't. The talent level and where they're at this year as opposed to last year is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
Out over there, Cristobal made some dynamite coordinator hires, and they're really showing their teeth over there at Miami. And it's one of those where, okay, maybe we completely overreacted to Miami, but maybe we're still overreacting. So maybe it's kind of somewhere in the middle. But what I see with my own 2 eyes watching the game is since Miami, I'm seeing an improvement in defensive play, defensive execution, and defensive play calling. And if you can get better in all 3 of those areas, your defense is going to get better. And lo and behold, we've given up maybe 700 yards in the last 3 games combined.
Yeah. And looking at the other side of the ball, even, offense averaging over 400 yards of offense per game right now.
Yeah.
And just cruising along.
The Petrino effect, right?
Well, and that was our big issue coming into the year for most of the fan base, right? We came in saying, we know we got the dudes on defense. We know we have playmakers on offense. Can we put them to work?
Can we use them?
And so far, the answer has been a resounding yes. I mean, even looking at our loss, we still had 33 points in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like most of the time you could take that 33 point and it would work in most games. But, we're sitting here at this point, cruising along into game 6, and you're hosting an Alabama team, which, based on what I've seen so far, certainly is not an Alabama of old and a very beatable opponent, especially at Kyle Field.
Yeah, well, and I think this is an interesting matchup to look at because you look at how our defense they don't match up well with our defense, but I don't know that we match up well with their defense because their defense is what's keeping this team afloat. It certainly isn't Jalen Milroe.
Yeah.
But again, so we've gone from mobile quarterback-ish at Auburn to KJ Jefferson, who we know is a true dual threat quarterback. He is mobile. He has a hard time hitting a barn. He has a hard time hitting the turf with the ball sometimes. But he is mobile. And really, Jaden Milroe is a step up in mobility. But he's a step down, I think, as a passer. If KJ Jefferson had a bad day, but we talked about this on the fan show last week. KJ Jefferson doesn't like to get hit, and we hit him a lot. And when you're a quarterback that doesn't like to get hit, it gives you happy feet, which gives you, inaccurate throws. It all kind of piles up. So I like the matchup this week. I do. I think that if we get into a shootout, they can't keep up. But I don't think we need to beat a shootout, but I want to see 30, 31, 32 points. And I think that's enough to beat a Jalen Milroe Alabama offense.
I'm finding this very interesting looking at our side-by-side, kind of looking at our last 5 games. Very similar stories between both teams. You kick it out against, your slack opponent to kick off the year. You lose in week 2.
Eat your cupcake, beat your big-time out-of-conference opponent that you scheduled.
Right. But then, you go on to kind of start turning things around week 3, a game where people weren't sure how you were going to look in week 4. They're playing Ole Miss. We played Auburn. Similar score lines. We beat Auburn 27-10. They beat Ole Miss 24-10.
I mean, I think Ole Miss is better than Auburn.
Oh, significantly. No question about it. But it was just interesting seeing the progression week to week kind of heading into this matchup. And the line has fallen from what I saw because it started off at -4, in favor of Alabama. Now it's down to 2.5.
Okay, yeah, I saw it open at 3.5, but 3.5, 4, whatever. If this game's in Tuscaloosa, I'm probably a little bit more worried, quite frankly, because I mean it's going to be nuts. They had tents, camping out right after the Auburn game.
Yeah,
my daughter's been pulling shifts with one of those tents because she's all in. And so the environment should just be absolutely rocking, especially with the lower temperature. Even the olds can get into it. So there's just no excuse for Kyle Field not to be physically shaking on Saturday afternoon.
Right. I mean, temperature wise, it's certainly not going to be what it was. As I mentioned before, we were talking off screen or whatever, big cold front coming through the area over the next several days. And so we're very excited about the drop in temperature, and that's going to make for a very pleasant game day experience, a good, feel for October ball in the SEC. And you're playing against kind of A&M's Jabberwocky for years, and a team that we're really excited to have the opportunity to take down in a West, which, as it's been proven already, looks to be very wide open.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you win this one, you're in the driver's seat, and then you still got Ole Miss and LSU on the schedule. You still got your game against Tennessee, which doesn't affect you in the West, but it affects some more lofty goals, loftier goals down the road. Yeah. But I mean, this is a team where literally your ceiling is making it to Atlanta and making in the playoffs. That's the ceiling. Because technically, and I'm not sitting here predicting that they're going to, but if you win out, you have one loss, you go to Atlanta.
You go to the playoff if you do that. That's just
if you go to Atlanta and beat whoever comes out of the East. If you go to Atlanta and don't win, New Year's Six bowl.
Yeah, I mean, you're still
So
sitting in a pretty spot. It's not a bad deal.
the ceiling is super high for this team.
Mhm.
It's just these next 2 weeks are so pivotal.
Yeah.
Obviously you have Bama going to Tennessee. I mean, it's obviously in no way, shape, or form going to be a cakewalk.
Mhm.
I'm not sure what Tennessee is right now still. But
I don't think they know who they are yet.
but playing at Nayland is a thing, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So having to go on the road to play in Tennessee is probably that, maybe Tuscaloosa are the two when you talk about like size wise the most similar as far as just hostile environment based on number of people alone.
Hmm.
Um, and so you have that, but then you get a bye week, right? Everybody can get right, get healthy, and then you come out of the bye week with a very winnable opponent. So it's these next 2 weeks can really set you up for that back half of the schedule,
Hmm.
and not to mention just a ton more confidence. I mean, I'm sure they've got a ton of confidence right now in the locker room, and I hope they do because they've certainly earned it. But if you can put an Alabama feather in your cap, and then maybe you can go put a Tennessee feather in your cap going to the bye week,
Well,
then all you gotta do is stay out of trouble
yeah. Well,
during
and
the bye week.
yeah, no question. And honestly, looking at how the national narratives like to play. I mean, really nobody's talking about A&M right now, except for maybe a couple of pundits here and there. I mean, what was it like?
Some
One,
SEC guys are.
yeah. Some SEC guys are like, I think A&M might be the best team in the West. And I'm like, that's great. I can look at Ole Miss and say they've got phenomenal offense, and you can look at LSU and they'd say, yeah, they've got a pretty darn good offense. You look
Mhm.
at Alabama, but I think
Well,
the
you look
X
at
factor
Alabama
there.
and say they got a darn good defense. You don't say they have a darn good offense.
No, yeah, but the crazy part is, if you looked at that, Ole Miss is kind of moving forward a little bit, looking at kind of the previous results from last week. Ole Miss and LSU, that was a wild game in terms of the back and forth, but it filled me with a little confidence strictly because if we have any kind of good push on defense, they don't have any defense.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and I think LSU's shown that a couple weeks in a row, and I think LSU also showed that by bringing in an analyst for like the sixth time. He was like 82. He's like 82 years old. He's coming to LSU back for the sixth time to be an analyst for the defensive line. So it's clear that they in-house understand that they have issues because you're not just randomly hiring analysts,
Yeah.
4, 5, 6 games in if you don't think you have problems.
Yeah. And that's very clear that they do. Um, and like I said, I wouldn't hit the panic button if I was them yet, but obviously you're already sitting at 2 losses on the year. So
Hiring an analyst this far into the season is a bit of a panic button. Like it may not be the biggest panic button on the planet, but they understand that there's some issues that they better get fixed time now.
oh yeah, and they definitely need to, especially as the season goes on. But yeah, I mean, heading into Alabama, which typically Alabama always following kind of middle of the season for us. I don't know why the schedule tends to fall that way, but
I
it's
kind of like it.
yeah, but kind of our midterm for the year. Let's go out there
Yeah.
and set ourselves up for the back half of the semester, as it were, and go crush it the rest of the way, man.
Yeah, you really have like 2 midterms here right in a row before you get to go on break, pretty much.
Exactly. So
So, but you got to pass the first. It's almost like the old school, the accounting CPA exam. If you pass 3 of the 5 sections, you only have to take the other 2. Otherwise you got to retake the whole thing.
oh, that's rough.
So yeah, so yeah, I'm so looking forward to the game. I think this will be kind of the coming out party, not for us because we already know we've been seeing it,
Yeah.
but for the rest of the nation to see our defensive line and really our front 7, to be honest, because I think our linebackers are playing great.
Mhm.
So to see what kind of defense we have, and if Max can stay mistake free, you obviously really got to like your chances. That one pick 6 by Max right at the beginning of the second half, whatever. You you can't not say that it happened, but that was just it was really weird.
And it looked like a miscommunication too. Like somebody was not turned around on time. It was a funky play.
Communication, yeah, kind of, yeah. And again, but I think Max is continuing to play well. I mean, you'd love to see him play better, but again, as a career, he's about a 235 a game kind of guy. Like if you pull his career stats, he's right around 235, a game. So, I mean, if he can get us 235 and 2 touchdowns, again, like two touchdowns, 1 interception around 230, and he went 17 for 28, which my brain didn't work for math. So it's only 61% completion percentage. So you'd like to see that higher, but there were a handful of, I'm not going to call them concerning drops, but there were just a handful of drops.
Yeah, happens.
I think Jade Walker, who I picked to have a bust out game, had a bust kind of game because he had some drops, but I don't think that's any reason to put him on the sideline. You got to show the kid you have confidence in him. He's shown all of us that he can be special, and I think he's such an important third cog to that wide receiving core where you have Evan, then you have Noah Thomas and Jade, or whoever they're going to put in there, Moose, or because Anais is really almost the fourth receiver coming out of the backfield, playing in that kind of flex slot position. So again, an embarrassment of riches at the wide receiver position. He just had a bad day, and that's what I'm going to chalk it up to, because we've seen him have some amazing days. We've seen him make some pretty fantastic catches, and sometimes dudes just have days like that, man. It happens.
It does happen, man.
I've seen Evan Stewart drop footballs. So
yeah,
I don't think Jerry Rice caught every single thing he got thrown to him. Not that Jay Walker's Jerry Rice. I get it.
So kind of looking back at this past week, were there any games that really kind of caught you by surprise, or results that made you kind of go, oh, it's something?
I think, as much as we all wanted Kansas to be good, I don't think they are.
No. And maybe
Texas keeps taking care of business. I don't like to say it, but they do. They keep taking care of business. I'm trying to think. I was not shocked by Georgia Auburn because I called it being an emotional game. That's good old fashioned hate. That's the name of the rivalry. Good old fashioned hate. I was surprised Utah lost.
Me too.
That was a bit of a shocker. I was surprised that Colorado hung in the way they did with USC.
Yeah, but it was a big comeback in this second half that was really driven. But I mean, USC.
But still, if you're USC, you just shut the door, right?
Yeah, you need to shut the door better than that. But I mean, yeah, it ends up being a one-score game. But
Notre Dame Duke didn't go the way I wanted it to. But not shocked in the slightest that Alabama blew the doors off of Mississippi State, because that's basically every single year. That's pretty much how that game goes.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody should really be as surprised about the Kentucky Florida outcome. No, I know that was a big number. They won by a pretty decent amount, but I think Florida's overrated. I don't think they're as bad as we thought they were coming out for week one against Utah. But I don't think they're good enough to be 22nd. So I thought it was solid for Kentucky. I think if that game's in the swamp, maybe it's super tight. Maybe Florida ekes one out, but Kentucky was riding the lightning, man. And they just, and then of course Missouri wins again, but nobody cares because it was Vanderbilt.
Well, I'm wondering, and I'm curious about your opinion, between Kentucky and Missouri, do you think either one of them legitimately pose a threat to Georgia in the East?
I have no idea about Missouri. And again, it's like the SEC shorts from a couple of weeks ago. I'm like,
who are you?
Yeah, I don't know what to make of them. I think Kentucky has a kind of a puncher's chance kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 5-6 games in now for Missouri. Was Missouri 5-0, 6-0?
Missouri, yeah. Missouri's undefeated, as is Kentucky. They're both undefeated.
Yeah, so they're both 5-0. I don't know, but I think the jury's still out on Missouri, whereas Kentucky, I feel a lot more confident about their ability to challenge in the East.
Sure.
So that's just kind of where I stand right now.
Well, and kind of looking forward into next week, we'll have a really good indication of that, because Kentucky is going to Georgia. ESPN prime time 6 p.m. matchup.
Oh, that is next week.
Yeah, that is next week. Actually, a handful of really exciting games coming up next week.
I was a little shocked about Tennessee pulling away from South Carolina as much as they did. I just thought it was going to be tighter than that. Quite frankly, I don't have a very high opinion of Tennessee right now. No, but doing that to Spencer Rattler it's not bad.
No, it's pretty impressive. All things.
No, you got the Red River Shootout this weekend. You got us and Bama. You want hell, if you want to see if Missouri's for real, they get to play LSU. So
Yeah, we'll have a really good indicator of how that game might play.
You know what? We'll have a really good indicator from that game.
Yeah,
We'll know about both teams.
I agree.
Yeah, because
I mean,
LSU doesn't get off the mat.
well, and
They'll fold.
I mean, LSU going on the road to Missouri, who is still undefeated, ranked ahead of them. You got to think coming into that matchup, this is probably one of the biggest games at home for Missouri in years. I mean, they have a really good.
Gosh, yes.
I mean, they have a great chance to maybe show people, hey, yeah,
Check out our 40,000 person stadium.
Yeah, yeah, come on out and party. But
I will never forget that when we traveled to Missouri for the first time. I walked in and I was like, I literally have played in bigger high school stadiums.
It'd be like, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where's the rest of the decks?
Where's the rest of the decks? One interesting matchup, and I do not think for a minute that Ohio State loses it, but Ohio State Maryland could be interesting.
Well, Maryland's kind of a little bit of buzz right now, and
Yeah.
I saw a lot of this on social media. People complaining about the rankings, which obviously I rankings this early are still
Stupid,
still for conversation.
Yeah.
But it's clear that they still drive a lot of conversation, and people are complaining about like some of the SEC teams that have multiple losses being ranked, whereas Maryland's undefeated. I'd like this game a lot more if it were in College Park.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, Ohio State's another one of those, and I know they're 4-0, but they're supposed to be 4-0.
Yeah, exactly.
That'll be worth watching, I would guess, at least for a little bit. If this were in College Park, I think I'd have a much better feeling about it. But there's something about going to play in the Horseshoe.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a rough go in all likelihood, but it might be interesting.
Here's an interesting one that shouldn't really be on anybody's radar, but it's on mine. Is the Arkansas Ole Miss game?
Yeah, I agree.
I would love to see Arkansas bounce back and beat Ole Miss.
Me too. I mean,
that's the result I want and need.
Well, and Ole Miss is kind of a weird deal because I would have thought going into last week that Ole Miss would have been able to give Alabama a better fight, but then you lose by a couple of scores.
Yeah.
And now I'm wondering, the question is, okay, you turn around to beat LSU, but we really don't know how good LSU is. So,
yeah,
can Arkansas bounce back against Ole Miss? I think there's a possibility.
You can't say it enough times. The West is down.
Yeah. It could be very interesting.
No, it's going to be a good weekend for college football. I just think all the interesting matchups are located in the wrong stadium.
Okay,
I think all of them would be more exciting if they were flip flopped.
There is
like Georgia Tech, Miami.
Mm-hmm. Georgia Tech, Miami ought to be a good one.
Yeah, I just wish it was at Georgia Tech.
I agree. But there is one exciting matchup that I'm looking forward to, strictly because there's a possibility I might be able to go to it.
Oh, Wyoming?
Wyoming is hosting 24th ranked Fresno State in Laramie. So here, this plan of attack. We load in at like 2:30 in the afternoon. Our sound check is done at 4:30. That game will start at 6 p.m. local time. And we don't take the stage until 10:30.
You at least go for a half.
I'm thinking I want to go for half, potentially going to the third quarter, depending on how things are shaking. But, I mean, the possibility of going to War Memorial Stadium in Laramie, Wyoming for a football game?
At sunset?
Yes.
It's one of the most beautiful venues.
I can't wait. I want to go. So I'm going to check with the rest of the band, see who might want to go, who's going to be wanting to just hang out or whatever, but I'll check and see what people are thinking.
Bring a backup bass guitarist in case the game's really close going in the fourth.
Yeah, it should be fine. I'm not worried about it. The crazy part is I was looking at that. I mean, we're literally talking, these are $20, $25 tickets right now. Oh, I want to jump on it so bad.
You almost have no excuse. I mean,
right?
even if you only go for the half, like you gotta go, man.
Yeah, I want to go. So I'm gonna check with some of the guys. We'll see what they think. But that was something that came up on the schedule that I was very excited to see. I was like, ooh.
Well, man, even if it's $100, like if it's $100 ticket, you're like, $100 for a half of football. I don't know so much.
Yeah.
But dude, $25. for a
Well,
stadium that's not huge. So it's not like you're going to be in the super nosebleeds.
well, even here on ESPN, while I'm looking at it, they're showing tickets as low as 17. I mean, these are not going to be expensive tickets.
So really, the conversation you're going to have with your bandmates isn't really a debate so much as it is an informational.
Yeah, it's like, hey,
we're
boys,
going to the game.
We're going to the game. Here's how much these tickets are going to be. Here's what they're going to have for concessions, and this is when we're coming back to the place. Ready, break.
That's funny.
Yeah, so I'm excited for that in particular. But man, talk about it was just a crazy little week for sports, and it was fun. And it's never a bad deal when the boys pull off the win, and it kind of takes care of a lot of the issues for the rest of the weekend. Now, granted, thanks to the Astros, we had a nice little cherry on top of that, which is never a bad deal.
Yeah, that was well, and I don't know if you saw the Rockets and the Astros paired up and they bought AT&T Sports Network.
Yeah, I did see that.
Was that Space City Network or whatever they're going to call it?
Yeah.
Which it doesn't change one bit about like markets and who's going to be able to see it. But then I saw a follow-up that they're aggressively pursuing YouTube TV, and I'm like, hello. So
that's a good deal.
Get to start watching the Astros again. I mean, God bless the Rockets, but it's been hard for me to care about them since Elijah won. So
yeah, definitely been a rough little go.
James Harden is hard to root for no matter what jersey he's wearing.
Yeah.
But
him and his
you guys are going on a massive road trip.
We are going on a massive road trip. So we're heading out on Wednesday. Gonna cut distance up to Amarillo, park out at a KOA out there and just relax for the evening.
Oh, so you're not doing anything in Amarillo, just stopping through?
Just stopping through in Amarillo on Wednesday night, and then proceed on up to Denver. We're playing at the Black Buzzard up there, which is a cool venue. It's owned by Oscar Blues, the beer company.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this bar, it's owned by them, and it's the actual venue itself is in the basement of the place. It's like right in downtown Denver. I mean,
it's like we're talking house bar.
Yeah, it's right there in the middle of downtown. So we're gonna go play in the basement there. Then the next day we're heading up to Greeley, Colorado. We're playing up at Moxie Theater, which has been a great venue for us. We played out there back in February, and it was a great crowd. They brought it. I was like, okay, let's go. Nice. Cool. Rock and roll. And they were so ready to have us back. So we took advantage of the opportunity to go. And then we're proceeding on up to Laramie on Saturday, playing at Cowboys Saloon and Dance Hall up there. Which, Cowboys.
Is that it? Nothing on the return?
Nope. And then we're just hauling all the way back on Sunday. Yeah. Whoa. All I'm saying is when we run this podcast this time next week, I'm probably going to be a zombie, but that's okay.
Well, hopefully Aggie football will have given us something very exciting to talk about, and it'll help us bring the energy, right?
Oh yeah, and hopefully I can come back with a few pieces of memorabilia and be like, Wyoming Cowboys, go Pokes. Let's go have some fun with it, man. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, it's obviously not one of the biggest venues in the country, but just because of the setting and the backdrop, it's pretty much, it's kind of a bucket list stadium.
It's fun. And clearly, bigger teams can go in there and have a tough time winning. I mean, look at what happened with Tech to start the year. Yep. Like it's a cool venue. A&M, I think we played up there years and years and years ago. I want to say it was in the 90s or early 2000s. I
say it would have been a long time ago.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of familiar, but
yeah, we did do a road game against Wyoming one time.
Those are the kind of games you just kind of don't even remember, I think.
Right.
Well, and if it was years and years and years ago, chances are it wasn't even on TV, right. back in the Raycom Sports days.
It was, found it. Let me double check it. We were at Wyoming. This was September 11th, 2004. A&M was on the road at Wyoming. They won 31-0.
Probably would have been on like pay-per-view, maybe.
Yeah, probably, maybe. It was, like I said, kind of early September matchup. So that's interesting. Very, very interesting. But that's fun. And we've played them a grand total of 3 times. Excuse me. I did screw that up a little bit. For all of you history buffs, I was wrong. We've played them 3 times. We played them 2000, 2001, 2004. The first time we played them in that 2001, it was a home and away. The away was 2001. We played in Laramie, and the final was 28-20. So it was a little tighter of a game.
No, thank you. I don't need that stress right now. We're doing well. I don't need that stress in my life.
We don't need that stress, but
I pulled up our game real quick.
yeah.
And you were saying there's tickets as low as $17.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our game, there are tickets as low as 159.
Woo! Hey, that's a good sign because that means people are going to be there. They're going to be loud. They're going to be there. If there's any one thing I can stress to the students right now, go out there, get loud, and really give it to them. Here's the deal. They play in front of probably, when it comes to Alabama, yes, they're a good fan base at home, but they're not as energetic.
Yeah, it's a big crowd, and they're super energetic, like pre-kick. But then, that there's a lot of apathy in that fan base just because they've been so successful for so long.
They have,
like they can get loud, but I've certainly been in louder stadiums. Their pregame is loud, but you speak of that matchup. I just want to cue in on a couple of quick numbers. You look at, and I'm just going to look at kind of the real broad. We're going to paint with a broad brush here. Just how many yards you're averaging per game versus how many yards you're giving up per game. Just kind of those two stats.
Mm-hmm.
And we're significantly better in like offensively. And that's really in passing because we're pretty much the same in yards per game rushing, but we're almost 100 yards better than they are in passing yards per game. And I think that feeds way back into what we were talking about Milroe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like he can run, but he can't pass. And Alabama fans will tell you he's just not a very good passer. He likes to hold on the ball too long. He's not accurate when he does throw. He throws off balance, but he's not the kind of quarterback that can throw off balance well. Like a Connor Wegman who's got kind of that shortstop background and upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
So we're far better than they are in the passing game on offense. On defense, total defense wise, we're better. Now, granted, we haven't played Ole Miss, who's just going to throw the ball over the yard, but we're better in both facets of the game, both passing yards allowed and rushing yards allowed. Now, it's not obviously as big a disparity as it is offensively, but when you look just looking at the numbers, and I know that doesn't tell, that may not tell the tale of the tape for this game, but you look at those numbers heading in, that's where we're talking about these matchups. Their offense isn't as powerful, and our defense has been better than theirs statistically. Well, and there's just a ton of room for optimism, staring down the barrel of this game.
Well, and on top of that, if you look at the last several seasons with A&M, there has been that running deal where Alabama is not nearly the monster that they have been for us for the last several years. Obviously, we win in 2021, and then you lose on the last play in 2022. You were in both of those games, and a lot of those guys, you got to think, they're like, oh, man, we were this close to getting them last year. Let's go put it on them this year. So there is a bit of that factor. There's not much of a pucker factor for me coming into this game. I'm loving what I'm seeing from our team.
Well, and kind of to branch off of that, I mean, how many of our players are scared of Alabama right now?
I would say none of them.
6-7 years ago, the thought of having to play Alabama makes everybody go, nah, crap. Like, here it comes, right? I think we all know Alabama's gettable, and I think within that locker room, there's a ton of confidence, and it feels like there's really good team cohesion. The team, they have the right body language. They they react to each other well. So I'm not going to sit here and guarantee you a victory, but
no,
a lot of the numbers kind of point that direction. As long as we can continue getting the run game going. I thought Moss had a fantastic game. I picked him as to be the top running back for the game back on Thursday, and he delivered. I think he looks great. Obviously you don't really have to talk about the wide receivers. You really don't. Just rotate whoever you want in. It doesn't matter. There are too many weapons for them to cover for any period of time. So really that just circles back to the offensive line. Can we have a good game against what will be the most talented team on defense on paper, the most talented team that we played so far, and maybe one of the most talented that we may play all season on paper, but turn that around. This is gonna be the best defense Alabama's seen.
Very true. I mean, I don't see how you can go back and watch film from the last couple of weeks as an offensive lineman and not go, Ooh,
Not great.
this could be a rough day.
What do you think Jalen Milroe's thinking? Like
I'm
looking at
thinking
KJ Jefferson, like,
he's like,
"Ooh,
I'll get the extra knee pads.
seriously. I wouldn't want to be a quarterback going up against our front seven right now. And
No,
I don't know if that would matter my quality of my offensive line that I rolled out there.
those guys are ready to eat, and I'm excited to see them go eat, man.
God, they're so fun. It's just I think the two biggest keys when we have the ball, obviously, is just going to be protection. I don't care if you got to leave somebody in extra duty and shipping, protection. Because Max shows that he protects the ball, right?
Yep, he does.
So protection to give him time because the receivers are going to get open, and because you have, Evan Stewart's one of those guys where if he's kind of covered, he's open. You know, he wins a lot more 50-50 balls.
That's right.
They're not really 50-50 when you throw it to Evan.
Right.
And then on the other side of the ball, the ability to get to the quarterback quickly. Because again, we talk about this every week. You're never going to be able to cover wide receivers for 7 to 8 seconds, but if we can continue to assault the quarterback and get home, and then combine that with the fact that, we said in the Auburn game, we got lucky because they had some drops or this or that, or just some missed reads. Dude, missed reads, that's Jalen Milroe's MO.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not drops, it's poorly thrown passes. So again, I don't really care how we get to the finish line. I just want to win this friggin' game.
I think disruption's definitely the name of the game. If we can just continually cause chaos on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to have a hard time trying to put together a fully fledged game plan. And it sure seems to me, old Nick Saban, his frustration levels are just starting to build and build.
I can't even imagine. Yeah. So, I'm not trying to have dinner with him this week or anything.
No.
But I will say Jalen Milroe's a better runner. He'll be the best runner we've obviously seen all season.
Sure.
But his passing is
yeah.
So I think that's where it all plays in, because if he's already a bad quarterback and you're putting pressure in his face and you're making him throw off balance, you're going to exacerbate the problem for them. I don't know that you're necessarily going to end up with 7 sacks again this week, because again, he is a much better runner. He's a lot closer to Cam Newton than he is to KJ Jefferson. He just can't throw the ball worth crap.
Yeah.
A lot of optimism, man.
Yeah.
I'm excited. At an all-time high in Aggie land.
I mean, I'm excited for it. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how this game plays out. And, rest of the results be damned. Let's just go out there and win a game.
That's the thing. You can only control what you can control, right?
Yep.
So.
Rock and rolling.
All right.
So.
I got to it's happy taxes day for me, because I'm now 13 days away from the extension deadline. So, it's one of those, if you wait till the last minute, it only takes a minute to do it. So I'm going to go wallow away in misery in my taxes.
Enjoy that.
Can't wait. Super excited.
Yeah. I get to be working on some album art. I've finished up 2 of them for our singles. Carson's. Yeah. You're more than welcome to, if you want. My plan right now is just got to finish up one additional piece of that, but as soon as we're done with those, we'll start getting ready to post those out. But got some exciting news that I can't share as far as the band going forward, which I am very, very excited about, but we will get into that later.
Will we know next week?
No, it'll be kind of getting towards the end of the year.
Oh, that's
we got to build up suspense, man.
Garbage teaser.
Yeah, you have to leave the cliffhanger. And unfortunately, this is a cliffhanger that's going to last a while, but it's all great. You guys will hear all about it later. It's going to be fun. But be sure to follow us on all of our socials. Once again, we are on Instagram. If you've not checked us out yet, it is just RedAss Podcast on Instagram. Easy to find. We just upload on there. We just do a little preview clip, just like we've been putting on Twitter/X. And feel free to give us a like, give us a follow.
We'll actually try and put out like pictures, content on Instagram. So that's what it's for. You should take a bunch of pictures on your trip up to Wyoming.
Yeah. I mean, we could definitely take some pictures and share out. And
like I could take some selfies with my taxes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's dynamite content.
So be sure to keep up with us on those. Once again, on X, be sure to follow Roy May 15 on Twitter, as well as Rob the Slapper on Twitter. We are looking forward to what's going to be a very fun weekend, I think, across the board.
Well, I mean, you get to go to Wyoming and Alabama gets to come get beat up in College Station.
Let's make sure that happens, baby.
Yeah, but both of them.
Fuel. I need all the Kool-Aid, man. I need all the Kool-Aid. Oh yeah.
I tell you what, it's gonna get close to being brewed if this weekend turns out well, because now you're officially on a roll heading into Knoxville. Like you are officially rolling.
Yeah. Roll Ags, roll, baby. All right. Be sure to catch us on those socials, guys. We love y'all.
Beat the hell out of Bama.
Beat the hell out of Bama. Y'all have a great week. All right.